Okay, I'm working on a Volvo Penta GS PWTR, carbureted, as you can see, electric fuel pump, and it has an intermittent fuel pump issue. So it was working until it didn't, and the fuel pump's brand new, and we definitely were not getting power to the fuel pump. So verified that the relay was good. This one happened to sit up there. I know it kind of looks like a mess right now. We had to tear into that wire harness, and I'll explain why here shortly. So this is how this system works, is there's a couple diodes in here, and I believe that is in fact the culprit. So 12 volt, this one right here should have 12 volts positive at all times. This one, which comes over here, you can see it splices that. There's actually a diode in there. I clipped that, and so I was just doing some testing. So that's just temporarily there until we can fix it properly. But this is a one-way diode. I'll explain why here shortly. There's also another one-way diode that comes from the alternator. So when the conditions to which these get power, so this is the cranking circuit, so while you're cranking the key, this will send 12 volts over to this relay. It'll switch the power from here, this fires up, and it sends it over here. So once that's going, once you stop cranking, the alternator takes over, and now it's sending power from the alternator over here. What does that mean? Well, one, it means that you could have a condition where, let's say you cranking it, which is enough to run the fuel pump, so you're getting some fuel, so it starts for a second, but then the alternator never takes over, and so this circuit never fires up. As soon as you stop cranking, it just dies. And it might not be that your alternator's bad. Your alternator might be just fine. It could be this diode. So why are these? So these are called Schottky. I probably sound like a fucking idiot. It's that word, Schottky diodes. And the one we're going to be using is this 3 amp right here. So these are also known as blocking diodes. We do not want to use a rectifier diode or a fast recovery diode. We want these ones. I think they call them also like MS or metal semiconductor. But these are one-way diodes, which does mean, by the way, that they go one direction. So they go towards, power goes towards the anode, so it needs to go this way, flowing out like that. All right, you can see that metal band. Oh, sorry. So power flows through it. It cannot go back the other way. Why? Why can it not go back the other way? Well, let's imagine this. So let's say this did not have one of those. Well, what's that power gonna do? So you have to think of power like it's flowing water. Well, if I have flowing water coming here, and as you can see, this connects to the same circuit. So this is flowing water, right? Battery positive. Or where did we say this comes from? Well, it comes from the cranking circuit of the ignition. So what's gonna happen? Your starter is not going to stop cranking. It's just going to sit there and crank and crank and crank, and the motor's running. So we do not want that to happen. Luckily, that was what happened here. It was just intermittent. It just wasn't always getting power through there. It was kind of sort of getting through. I was getting a couple volts, but not enough to keep the fuel pump running at all times. It looks like this motor's gotten hot. You can see I'm probably going to replace this whole relay block. But yeah, that's it. That's just one out of many things it could be. Something interesting that just for other platforms, not this one, is this one does not have an oil pressure switch. So but a lot of them will, especially if you're throttle body or fuel injected multi-port. And where you would see that is down here almost always. on this blocked port. You can see that bolt right there that's blocked off. Normally that would have an oil pressure switch, and pretty generally it's purple and on one side, and then purple with the yellow stripe going out. And that purple with the yellow stripe is what feeds the fuel pump, or sends power over here to the fuel pump. And the reason for that is, makes sense, doesn't it? If you don't have oil pressure, you don't want fuel. It's a good time for your engine to stop running when you don't have oil pressure. Yeah, just a little tidbit. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure, maybe somebody can correct me, but I'm pretty sure lots of the Polaris Razors that you see driving around do not have oil pressure switches, meaning if you put a hole in your oil pan, run out of oil, your fuel pump will never shut off on you. So that's bad, even though that means a breakdown. It means an even bigger breakdown if you run out of oil and seize your engine. So something to consider as a little side note on your Razor. Okay, I think that's it. Maybe this will help some poor bastard out there someday. Good luck.